Okay. I don't want to miss this. So I actually have been following Larry on Facebook for like a long, long time. And one of the reasons I really love him is his book, Social Graces, which I had out just the other day, actually was the very first photo book I ever bought. And so I've been reading his poetry on Facebook now for quite a while. And I finally just decided that I had to get the courage up to ask him if he would talk to you guys, because he's a true activist and he's a good soul. And I actually have had just the last few minutes talking, and I feel so comfortable now. I was all nervous, and there was absolutely no reason to be. The most laid back, wonderful man ever. So it's just been my pleasure. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Larry Fink. And Larry, I'm going to put my microphone on off so that nothing happens to your voice. But I'm going to play the slideshows, the first one, the Malcolm X work, and then all that. And then I went ahead and turned off all of the volume so that if you wanted to talk, you could. And if on the slideshow that has audio, but if you want me to play the audio, just let me know and I'll play it.
I think, quite frankly, I forgot what the audio consists of, and I don't. It's a little bit awkward because I think I don't want to talk into the show. If I did something previous to based on a number of who knows what, why not let it be?
Yeah.
I remain silent, and then when the folks are here and when we're all together, we can start to have a conversation.
Okay, so then what I'm hearing you say is that it's okay for me to keep it off and we can have the conversation about the work. Is that correct? The audio on the.
You tell me what to do and I'll do it all.
Okay, so I just see how easygoing he is. So I'm going to actually, because I listened to some of the audio, but I want Larry to be able to, and my students that all have the PowerPoint with the audio, Larry, so they've all should have looked at it by now. And if other people want it, I'll get it to them, of this people that are in here, that not they want to hear it. And that way we get to hear your voice, and which is my pleasure. So everybody, without further ado, here we go. I'm going to share the screen, Larry, and I'm going to mute myself. Can everybody see that?
So far, I can see Larry Fink.
Oh, can you see the screen, Larry? Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to mute down and I'll go ahead and start playing. Can you tell us where these are taken?
This was at the Audubon Ballroom, where Malcolm would speak on Thursday evening to the population. And this was far on. I had gone to probably 5 or 6 of those evocations. So folks were somewhat familiar with me, but at first I didn't use my camera at all. I was pretty much the only one of the few white people in the audience, and so it would be hardly inappropriate to be a journalist in the ruthless sense of the word, because that's not who I am. Malcolm was quite a force. He was particularly ethical. After all, he came from a life of crime. And so we knew which side was which. And he, as the story goes, he saved my life by suggesting to somebody who wanted to whip me to sit down and go to vote.
I listened to the story on the audio, and you talked about being the only white person in there, and the lady that had the bullet, that said, I have a bullet for this man back there. But then Malcolm said, and that must be the ethic that you're speaking about. He said, you're going to be side by side voting with this man.
Yeah, that's how he handled it. It was very graceful and very, very direct. He says, sit down. That man's going to vote with you. Period. Boom. Really quite efficient, and without any hubris. Just objective.
Were you free when you made this work? Were you working specifically with a magazine, or were you teaching? What freelancing?
I was working in Harlem at a place called How You Act. It was part of the Johnson Great Society money came to ostensibly rebuild the community. And How You Act was at first, in its origin, not very practical, but very idealistic, thrust towards getting young people all involved with disseminating a new kind of thinking for the community, and to bring people together and so on and so forth. It was quite exciting. I mean, and me being a young leftist, it was just wonderful for me and so much fun. And then I was fired because the HARU itself started to become more practical and started to think about where are we going to get these kids jobs, not in the revolution, So in photography, a new photographer came in who was more of a commercial photographer, and the kids were very, very distraught. Sometime this was Kenneth Marshall in the midst of it all with his hat on. He was the leader of HARU at that time.
How long did you stay working with this community before you started making the pictures?
Well, I was up there teaching for about a good month, every day, getting involved with the kids, seeing what the program was going to be. I think if I recollect, I actually was tailoring the building of the new dark room, et cetera, et cetera. I was busy as can be. And everybody trusted me for some odd reason. It wasn't long before I was able to photograph, and I didn't photograph. I'm not a volumetric photographer. Let's put it that way. I don't use my camera incessantly, and I just witness things, and then when it's the right moment, like such as this, I make a picture.
Yeah, this is a definitely. Oops, I went the wrong way. Letting somebody in. This is a definitely right moment image.
No, this photograph is just a miracle, really. Not done by me.
It is beautiful. How dangerous was it in those days to be photographing these protests? And
I think probably less dangerous than it would be today. I mean, this was around the time of the Harlem riots and so on, and my students, my kids, wouldn't let me go home because they said I couldn't go out in the street, so they kept me in the dark room in the studio area, and got me ribs and food and whatnot like that. We went on with our lessons downstairs. Every once in a while I would venture out, like such as here. This funeral. So
who died?
the reason I say it might be more dangerous today is because even with all the racism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, America still at that point in the 60s was an innocent, much more innocent than it is today. Today it's stark cynical and just at war with with itself.
Is this ROTC?
Yeah. The light there is so fantastic, huh?
Golly, it is.
The way it
I mean-
illuminates those guys and the you know the audience and rims him.
No, I mean, it was perfect. And you can see everybody so well. I mean, it really is. And then all those chairs in the top, that's a really nice image. Who's talking?
I think it was a guy named Ronald Drayton, if I remember correctly. He was one of the, he was an artist, I believe, and or a theater person. I forget now. And he was one of the organizers and artists. Could have been also Floyd Price, who was a major organizer of the HARU system. I think it was, his name was Price. Really nice guys. Could you imagine this happening today?
No, no. I mean, it's just, that's why I was just looking at all the, yeah, I can't imagine it. So,
I mean,
yeah,
God, man, the kid would be, you know,
he would be dead probably, unfortunately.
totally. I mean, bingo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gosh. And everybody, I see your chats and I'm gonna wait because I can't rub my stomach and pat my head at the same time. So I really want to focus on these images, but when we take a break to the next PowerPoint, I'll look at them and see, make sure if there's a comment. I can, let's do it after so I can just make sure I don't get, I can do, stay on top of it. So what protest was this anyway? I'll try to go a little bit faster. They're just so fascinating.
I didn't quite
These-
understand.
Were these guys, they look like young. Are they college kids?
No, I think they're high school students, as I
Okay.
remember correctly. And this was, you know, part of the thrust of HARU was to garner up the energy of the young people and, you know, and saddle up their hopes in a collective kind of a way so that they could be what we were doing photographically and what was happening throughout. There was street theater. It was really, the first year or two was just extremely energized and idealistic and actually quite successful, except once again, successful in a practical way, I doubt it.
Mhm.
Nobody was getting a job except within. So
Mhm.
it was creating a job system within, and had ostensibly, had it been left to grow that way, perhaps it would have developed its own economy, you see. But
Mhm.
nobody trusts that because it was a different way of thinking about capitalism and about racism and so on and so forth like that. So it was a pretty a nice, important experiment.
Yeah. I love these flags. That's
Honored
his,
to be there. Bring that flag back. Thank you. Can we? Hello.
yeah, I see what's going on, but it's like very interesting because there's two figures in there.
There certainly are.
It's a little risque.
Strange picture.
It is. It's really lovely. Again, I've seen the flag in a lot of your work is sort of a symbol to, I guess, the culture. Oh, that's such a nice image there too.
Well, I guess, yeah, I don't, you know, I'm not a kind of, only so often am I programmatic in the way that I approach making photographs, meaning social graces or something like that, where I really went on to a project in a very, very headfast kind of a way.
Mhm.
Photograph with a very deliberate sensibility. Not necessarily, I had no fixed idea, but the sensibility about what I wanted to encompass. But here, I wasn't so focused. I was just photographing this and that and everything. And that's pretty much the way I am. It's just, what's that? Is a certain, I think this is a mental condition. It's ADT, something like that. You can't concentrate on.
Oh, ADHD.
Hello.
ADHD, yeah.
What up? Where am I? Yeah, no. So I tend to be silly and playful, even though I'm a dead serious dude. You know?
Yeah, the work is dead serious, but it's got that, lets us have access just by the silly and playful. Gives us access to a serious subject that's still going on.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna just keep moving through and tell me to stop if I need to. Oh, this one's interesting.
George Wallace.
Did he get reincarnated this time? As one of some of the right, isn't it the right people, or people on the right?
I can't quite understand you, honey.
Oh, I was just saying, it sometimes feels like Wallace was reincarnated.
Like what was it reincarnated?
George Wallace.
Wallace. Oh.
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm half deaf and I have hearing aids and all kinds of stupid stuff of aging. So, which is really quite interesting for sure, but it's a nuisance. These are right-wing kids. I want to make an admission. I want to make a confession. Can I?
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the last picture.
This one?
The first rendition and then the film rendition of this picture, there was a flag which came right out of his head. Right there.
Right here? Or here?
Right above his hat.
Uh-huh.
Right, basically, you know. And I took, we took it out.
Of a negative?
Nope, negative is still pure. Is still intact. But these are all digitized. And so when we digitized it, I made the decision to take out this flag, which served no purpose, save to mess up the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Picture this way is very successful.
Yes, sir. And I think the flag coming out of his head would keep us from seeing the important look on his face.
Yeah, I mean his position here between the flags. Anyhow, little tidbits of of structural information. This guy is too good.
I love that hat. We couldn't get away with that today. In that pool like got a fence around it now and everything?
I would imagine. I haven't been down in a long time.
Me neither.
Columbia University.
Wow.
I think that was the cover of New York Times.
This one?
That one, was it? They would have played heavily around at that point.
Well, it's definitely, it's a loud photograph.
That one, go back to that one.
Okay.
No, the one before.
This one?
No, that one, this one.
This one?
Yep. Nope, stay there.
Okay.
No, not there.
Where?
The
Which-
big crowd.
okay.
crowd with the
There we
statue.
go. Oh, dang it. Let me get back. There it is. I'll move.
There we go. Oh, nope. Go back.
It went, it's still there. I can still see it. You can't?
Now I can.
Okay. Can you still see it?
I can see it. Can everybody see this? Cool. That's of course Wall Street during some anti-war, protest event. It's just, for me, I mean, when I found it again, 20 years after I took it, I didn't remember taking it, but I was really in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
You really get the sensibility of America, and with all the George Washington kind of cat, and then I love this picture.
Me too. And the people looking out the windows.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's great.
The light is so perfect.
Mhm. It actually shines on those figures, looking out the window, like you can it literally lights them up. If it was a little closer, you could probably see in their apartment. And then there's millions of heads. It's amazing. Looks like you were climbing up high on something in a way.
I must have been flying.
Yeah. I think this is the last one in the series.
This one is?
I think so, because it went blank.
Okay.
Are we good to escape out of there? And I'm just gonna come back to this one.
Those guys are the Bread and Puppet Theater. They still exist today. And Peter Schumann, I don't know if he's still alive. He may well be. He's a tough guy. Was the originator of the place, and he's German. And it's about street theater and about symbolic theater and about so on and so forth. So these personas are, rigorously applied to political effect.
We're gonna shift gears, but not really. We're still using a voice, but this is work done in 2017.
Okay.
And I'm gonna turn you loose on it. And I think they'll be really excited to hear about the Planned Parenthood benefit through this work and all that too. Here we go. The outpour. Did you make this work? Was this just your own personal work that you did, or was this again work that you were commissioned for?
No, this was mostly done it was the early 60s. I was just photographing.
Jane?
Yes, sir.
I think it's you've shared this screen for the 60s work, but it has not transferred over to the more recent work. So I think it's not showing it.
Okay, let me get out of it. Let me go ahead and stop share and then try this again. I'm gonna go, let me close the 60s work. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm just gonna close that work out.
I gotta get my other harmonica.
We should have an intermission and listen to some music.
I tell you what, I want to get my other harmonica. This is not the one I want to play on. Can I break?
Of course you can. You can do whatever you want. Get it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Get out of here, Mr. Get out of here.
You can get your harmonica, Larry. We would love to hear your harmonica. Whatever you, okay. hope everybody's doing okay. I'm gonna look in the chat while he's getting his harmonica, because let's see. Yeah. I'll have him move up closer to the microphone. It is like a movie. Does anybody have any questions while we're waiting for the harmonica for Larry to get it? We doing okay? Okay. I actually think it's kind of fascinating to see his living room. Before you guys got here, we had the best conversation about just getting older and what's going on in the world. It was lovely. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen while we're waiting for Larry and just look at his work in case we run out of time or his time and make sure. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll watch for him when he gets back. I'm just going to like run through this to make sure we get to see it before. So this body of work is, I spoke with Jamie, his assistant, yesterday in a Zoom, and what's kind of amazing is one of the outdoor work, he donated all the profits to Planned Parenthood, which I think is amazing. And this was only 5 years ago that this work was made. So Larry's 81 now. So even at 70, what would that make him, 76? He was still out shooting, which is a good feeling to know that we can all, you know, that making art can go on as long as you can see. I hear a harmonica. Did you get it, Larry?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we ready to, now you play when you want. I'm going to share the screen, okay?
Yeah, no, I think, let's look at the pictures, right?
Okay, here we go.
Did you guys see the pictures already?
No, we haven't really seen them. I just opened it and we're just kind of looking away. Let me go back to the beginning. Okay, talk to us.
I was rather overwhelmed by the absolute power and hopefulness that these women shared together.
I love this one right here. That's here.
I've got a question.
Tell me.
So the difference between the work that you did in the 60s and this work you did in 2017, I noticed that you've switched to a square composition as well as a tighter focal length, something a little higher, maybe like a 50, and really focused on individuals instead of more capturing of the entire experience, you know, like a wide angle shot. What was your decision and what has led you to decide to be a little bit closer a little tighter in your compositions?
I could be very efficient and say life itself. But to answer the real question, the square format is something which I originally used. Now, I don't know if you've seen the work I did a book called The Beats. Do you know that work?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay. When I was before the Harlem work and all of that, Malcolm X, so on and so forth like that, I was a kid. It's like you're a kid. We're all kids, you know. And so I went on the road with a group of my friends, if you will, these beatniks, sort of second generation beatniks, Turk and Ambrose and Mary and Mother and whatever. Bunch of very, very outcasted, you know, drug fiend and jazz head poets, completely smashed out of their brains.
Totally.
And I was of them by my disposition for anger and rebellion, and not at all because I was oriented to Marxism. And these guys had no politics whatsoever, none, N-O-N-E. So at any rate, I traveled with them and in the village and stuff like that. And then we went down to Mexico, and there's a book called The Beats, which is out of print now, but it was Powerhouse Damiani, I think, like that art. It's a good book, and they're all square because I was using a Super Iconter B and a Rolleiflex that my dad gave me because my parents were good parents. Saying, yes, you could do this, son, you know. And I go off and get arrested, you know, at the border for smuggling pot and whatever, you know, I mean, you know, the whole 9 yards, you know. So, at any rate, I went back to the square after I suspect it was during I started as photographing Social Graces. And that was a project which was just generated by myself, based on the idea, once a leftist idea about, you know, looking at power and all those black tie events and stuff like that. And then the other people in the Social Graces book are just simply my neighbors in Martins Creek. I didn't have a Marxist disposition to make a book like that. I just was two different bodies of work happening at the same time. But they were done for the most part in the square, if you'll address them.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was done not with film, I believe. I think this is done, I did this digitally. And if anything, I used the Fuji, which orchestrates the square and black and white, or
Certainly.
wonderful little camera, the Sony RX100,
Mm-hmm.
orchestrates the square and so on like that. And I quite at this stage of the game, I'm not that interested in poking myself in people's faces, you know. I mean, I'm not that obsessive a photographer. I've been that guy, and now I'm 81 years old, man. Excuse me, I don't want to get into personal with anybody, man. It's like,
Yeah.
it's all too complex and sometimes distressing, you know. At any rate, but this particular march, it was a given that I had to be there because it was a wellspring of hopefulness and of potential anger. And of course, these women didn't know exactly how evil Trump was going to manifest himself to be, and nor could they imagine the results, not of Trump himself, but the factor of these nationalist, you know, elements, which are very, 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 very parochial in their point of view, and very punishing about others who have a, you know, alternative vision. So, but anyhow, I drifted away from your technical question into all kinds of other stuff. I hope you'll forgive me.
No, I forgive you. That's the the cross as well as the beauty of being an artist. You kind of drift into every subject.
Look how beautiful these women are.
I know, this has got to be one of my all-time faves right here. I just
Yeah.
love that. It's just, it radiates this bravery and courage and camaraderie and beauty and all of that. I just love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I got to that march, I virtually was in tears because it had been years since I had seen collective action like that. You know, such a hopeful,
Yeah.
empowered kind of way. And women, I mean, I'm a big womanizer, not in the way that's conventionally known to be. I love women.
I swear that's how my husband was too. And women loved him because he always smelled so good. You know, and it was
Yeah, what did
just,
you say about?
I said my husband was like that. And then I would say women loved him too because he always smelled good. Like they would hug him and go, "You smell so good." Yeah. So he was a womanizer too.
Now, how fortunate could I be? Bring that back a moment. Could I be with that structure? What may it be? A bridge or something like that above her head, empowering her face, just thrusting it forward in such a energized way. It's just terrific when those things happen.
Yeah, it does. It is.
And she's so beautiful. Oh my God, she's so consequent. Now you couldn't move in that march. That place was tight.
I was just about to ask you, and is this march in New York or is it?
No, it's the Washington one.
Okay, it's in Washington. Okay. The
Huge.
big one.
Huge.
Yeah.
I went to the New York one also.
That one has so much going on in it. I know you said that you don't want to get in their faces, but in a way, you know, I don't know. I'm just begging to differ just the tiniest little bit.
I'm a contradiction in terms, believe me. I really do not like to invade people's spaces. I respect their space. I mean, the thing is, I think probably why my pictures are somewhat empowered is because they're taken with tremendous amount of respect for the individual who I'm looking at. I'm looking at and through and for all of our deeper humanity. So it's empathy applied philosophically across a way of living, you know. And my pictures aren't about making pictures. They're about trying to feel what it means or what it feels like to be that person in front of me. And then structurally, this is not a great structural picture. Then they come. I come in this one with this triangulation, this thing like that, so on and so forth. You know, all of these types of graphic considerations are right inside my, dynamic when I'm photographing. But they're not. I'm not intellectualizing. They just happen because I'm cultured. Cultured, not necessarily in a cultured way, but by the mere fact that I've seen a lot. and know a little. It's so beautiful.
No,
Perfect blue.
oops. Getting rid.
Ah. You want to hug everybody.
I mean, it seems like, yeah, you're just right in there.
Talk into your microphone differently somehow, because you keep on bubbling out.
Oh, it's probably had my hand. I was saying it's the way these are composed feels like you're right in the, right there, you know, like within feet from these people, and because the images are so sharp and everything. But yet I was thinking, God, you must feel like you were going to get smashed, you know, with all those people. But they seem calm. I mean, the images itself seems calm. So tell us more about, how did you manage that? Are you using a different lens? I mean, it seems like you're right in it, in the thick of it.
Well, first of all, there was no violent activity at all, any place. So there was nothing to be uncalm about. And also, I'm calm.
You are.
I take things in stride. I don't get bent out of shape too often. I know I can be angry. I mean, I have all the emotions given to mankind, womankind, but I tend to see things across on a multi-level perception. Look at these people. It's so cool. Are we? You know, it's interesting.
I'm gonna go back.
I'm not teaching these days because I retired from Bard and so on. COVID came along, and I've been retired from the bigger world for a while, because I live on a Martha and I live on a farm, and we're away from the terse sense of reality. But the thing about these pictures and what I would teach, I would tell my students, if what's in front of you doesn't interest you in any real, or passionate way, you won't be able to make a picture of it which has any kind of validity. You might structurally and light-wise and all kinds of various aesthetic finagling, come up with something which looks pretty or something like that, but it won't have the kind of dimensional depth that it takes to make a great photograph or a great work of art. So, and I was just going back into the file just for the last several days, working on a book, a retrospective book. And I just came across a whole bunch of pictures that I did in Bologna several years ago of, so to speak, aristocracy. And I wasn't, even though I was interested to be in their midst and stuff, and I wasn't allowed to be there for any given amount of time. So I went in and photographed, and the photographs are terrible. They're just awful. I mean, sure, they're probably passable magazine photographs if one wanted to use them that way, and I'm not going to. I had never had a plan to. But the people themselves were not that. I wasn't around them. Let's put it this way, to be kind. I wasn't around them or allowed to be around them long enough period of time to find out what their real foibles were. And they were not transparent. They were not open on the surface because they're of the gilded class. So these pictures, on the other hand, the energy was absolutely precisely wonderful because of the wonderfulness of the women and the urgency of the cause, now more urgent than ever, except that
That's true.
becomes dangerous. I didn't leave Russia for this shit.
Oh my gosh.
That was not the march. These are
I was about to say, this feels like social graces to me, is it?
yeah, well, it was the book, the Women's March there's a little preamble to the march itself, which is this picture here and a couple others, you know, of some Republican balls the night before the inauguration or something like, you know, before the election. So I got myself invited through Vanity Fair contacts and so on and so forth to photograph the upper classes. And this woman's hand was a nice picture.
Yeah.
And this, I thought that this one, the next one.
I'm trying to get it to stay stuck. Hang on just a second. Make it back. There we go.
This one here, this is quite something.
Yes.
Lord. You know, the painter George Grosz, German expressionist painter, there was big influences on me are Max Beckmann and Otto Dix and George Grosz. And this picture, not necessarily structurally, but in terms of subject matter, is very Grozian in terms of the decadence and lurid corruption that seems to be implied here. And that smugness of it all.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I never permitted myself to photograph people eating like that. Never. It's impolite. People shouldn't be photographed when they're eating like that. But when I was looking at this event, there's a reality in front of me, the flag, and I saw that the guy was in the military with all his badges hanging. I decided it was only appropriate that I would photograph him eating, and I did.
Tell us about this one real quick, and I'll open it up for questions. But what is this? I see this going on, but what? Oh, is this this is her hip going down?
It's a dress, huh?
Yeah,
And it's a woman who shouldn't be wearing it.
yeah.
One would
What?
think someone should have coached her, because it doesn't it doesn't emphasize her form in any particular wonderful way.
I want to see how we doing. Are we quite doing okay on time? Can I open this up for questions? And so that people have an opportunity. I'm just going to check our time. Yeah, I should have probably opened it up a little bit ago. Do people? Oh, look, she's saying, let me just read you a couple of comments, Larry. They're saying Larry's ability to fit in so well to take these piercing images massive. And this is John Perko. Larry is seemingly invisible. All of his subjects appear not to be aware of his presence of the camera, which I think you kind of commented on when you were talking about when you make the picture, you're actually, it's kind of an act of love in a sense, or an act of respect to that person. So then it feels like you know them. And when you're making the picture, is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to know, I'm trying to know them in that nanosecond and the photograph to see if I can hold or fix that kind of empathy or that kind of reality that I just experienced. You know. So it's I'm certainly a photographer, but I really use it for very emotional means. You know.
Yeah, if anybody has a question, don't chat, just ask it, because we're here at informal and I can't see everybody through the chat anyway. So does anybody have any questions right now they want to ask? We've got like 8 minutes that we could talk about. I don't want to take up all the time with mine.
Gary Winograd has a famous quote. He says he photographs things to see what they look like when they're photographed. And you can't disagree with that. Because indeed, if you're a photographer, you photograph to see what a photograph looks like of the instantaneous reaction that you had to a reality in front of you in life, you know. But Gary only goes there in terms of his, so to speak, ideology. And since I'm a, so to speak, leftist or an activist, if you call it, I'm hardly an activist because I'm not out there on lines and carrying on. I'm not in committees. I'm not doing that. My mother did that, and my sister was the criminal lawyer, the major lawyer for the Attica brothers, and she's dead now, unfortunately, but she was an activist in the deeper sense. I'm just active and conscious of my idea about forming a society in a more noble, improvisational, warm, and loving way. You know. Improvisational being a big word. So, like that.
When you're making a project or working on work in activism, what do you think is the most important way to give someone access? You know, there's the whole idea of preaching to the choir and making images that what we know as visual art can really give people access to the ideas that someone's talking about. How do you think what do you think the most important thing is to help students get there, you know, with that passion, like what you're talking about? What do they need to do to make that happen, do you think?
Somebody just, a quote that I can just, you know, listen to is somebody said, you can't teach talent, you can teach form. You can't teach passion, you can teach interest. The passion, and if you're going to be a photographer of any note, or forget about note, which talks about the successful conventional way, but of any emphatic, you know, impact, you have to have obsession of some kind or another, because to wield the tool of the camera to try to search for the deeper truth is an obsession in itself.
Well, guys, does anybody have any questions before we got 3 minutes, I'm gonna hang this up, but I want to give anybody the opportunity because Larry's pretty easygoing. And if you do have a question, don't message me because I probably won't see it, just ask it. Yep, there's Tufan, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Hello to everyone, first of all, and Mr. Fink, thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. There is one thing that I'm wondering for my classes. Very often I'm out there and trying to take pictures, but I seem to bother a lot of people. I've been called names, I've been chased down, I've been shown finger, but your subjects seem to be very, very comfortable with your existence. What's your success? What do you do that you don't bother anyone?
How do I make the people feel comfortable?
with your existence with the camera there.
I'm sorry, say it again. I don't know why I'm not picking up. Could you say that again?
My question is, how do you make your subjects so comfortable with your existence with the camera there? Because while I'm out there on the street trying to take photographs of people, they seem to be bothered. They don't want me there with my camera. But your subjects seem to be super comfortable that you are there and taking their photographs. What's your success? How do you achieve this stage? Or to put it on in other ways,
Let me,
in other words, what do you think I am doing wrong? So I'm bothering people with the camera while I'm trying to take photographs there out on the street.
in terms of street photography, you know, it's very difficult. And I think today it would really be really hard because people don't trust each other. You know, people just, I mean, you're from my first position of looking at your face, you know, you're a very trustworthy guy, very warm, very sweet, you know,
Thank you.
and I would, if you photographed me, I would, you know, probably, you know, give you some lip, but I wouldn't be offended necessarily. I would think that what you were doing was something. Now, are you a big guy?
No, I am short, but I'm fat.
Haha, okay. At any rate, the way to make, one of the reasons, besides making a living, I liked assignments is because when I would go to an assignment to wherever it was, may it be something in a broader kind of a sociological spectrum or a specific family or industry or something like that, everybody knew I was coming to photograph. So I had access by permission. And so everybody would get used to me after a while. They would allow me at first, not giving me any kind of flack, and they would get used to me after a while, and I can make the photograph that I wanted to photograph. Also, I never keep my camera in my face. I keep it here. And I just, you know, watch and talk and watch and talk, and then boom, and know when I watch and I talk, I get a sense of what I actually am asking for. What's the potential of this face or this body or this gesture or the whatever it is that's, you know, within your frame or outside of the frame for that matter. And then by watching, you get to understand how you can get close, because if they trust you, if you watch them and you trust them, trust will come. It'll take a little time. But
Nice.
maybe the
Thank
thing
you
is
so
to
much.
do is to, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, thank you so much for sharing these with us.
Oh, no, and the thing to do is also to go to places where they want you to make a picture. You know, someplace, you know, where the energy is inherently exciting to you. And you'll call them up, or call up the Chamber of Congress, for Christ's sake. You know, and or the church, you know, that's a great center of human activity, you know, and say, listen, I want to photograph the brethren here. They're all playing, you know, spiritual basketball. And they'll say, yeah, sure, come on by. So give yourself access.
Great idea, actually. And I always say just building a relationship, going back again, you know, with that, go without the camera and build relationships, that can help too. And then listening to people, sometimes I think the camera can help people have a voice. You know, if they see it one way as a voice, you know, that their voice is being heard by you making that picture. But they have to have that trust, like Larry's saying. So maybe, you know, that's a good idea too, you know, just to go there and make a friend to wherever the place is, if you're going, if it's local, you know, or something. But well, oh gosh, I just could go on forever, but I'll just say this, is that this is just one of my highlights of my teaching career, Larry, you coming over here and talking to us and to my class and stuff. I really can't tell you how grateful we are, and all of us, especially well, me for sure, because I can speak for myself, that this has just been great. And I love talking to you before. You're killing me. So I hope we get to meet again, but at least now on Facebook, when I read your poetry, and Larry put some very, very beautiful poems on Facebook, then I know the face now that, and I've heard you speak. So thank you so much.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Believe me, I could go on forever. Believe me. 'Cause
Well-
I'm an egomaniac, but you know.
Well, I hope we can meet up again sometime.
Well, give me a call. Maybe we can do it. We'll see what's happening.
Okay, I
Thank
will.
you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for being here. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.